Welcome back to Watch the Booker Man, and to something different on the channel today, because for the first time I'm doing a video that is not based on Total Extreme Wrestling, because I'm trying out a different booking simulator game today, that being Pro Wrestling Sim. As you can see at the top, this is a game in early access, and initially I intended to do a first impressions video a couple of weeks ago, but when I started doing it I wasn't familiar enough with the game yet, so it just wasn't very good. While I've not booked loads in this game, I have got a feel for it, more familiar with the mechanics, and I'm going to go through today Ring of Honor Death Before Dishonor 2022, a show that, as of the recording, will take place tonight, but of course I'm sure people will see this afterwards, so it'll be interesting to see how my booking of the show compares with what they do in reality. Obviously it will click new game to start a new game, and I think the first thing that anybody will notice is the graphical element of this game. When I first opened it, it was the first thing that really took me back, and you'll see here it looks really great. Unfortunately I do still have the old Ring of Honor logo because this game is being played on a June database that I've made some personal changes to, which is why the roster's kind of messed up here. These guys who I've added are set as main eventers. Again, that's a mistake from me, nothing to do with the game. The way that everything is set up in the game allows so much potential for mod makers to really make this game look so fantastic. The titles in particular, this mod is Gaz WEFC. I will link the mod and the game in the description, but as you can see it just looks so fantastic, it really does. Storylines would come up there if I'd set any. Relationships again on this scale, I assume if they dislike each other it'll go into the red, but again it's just everything is presented so well in this. That's really what has stood out to me so much. We will actually go into starting our save now. The user character is going to be the Booker Man, and we'll call our save game just Ring of Honor, and we'll officially start the game now. This here is our office screen that just shows you your company. Here we've got our schedule, which I will have to change because it's inaccurate. It shows your upcoming contracts. The amount of times in TW that I've missed either the email or the message on the office page and ended up losing people, I really think it's great to have this on there, that if there's somebody whose contract's running out in a couple of days, it will be at the very top of your agenda. That's something I'm really impressed with. I will now change our event schedule. I'm going to make Ring of Honor Wrestling TV inactive for now, of course, because the show isn't currently ongoing. Death Before Dishonor, and make it the 4th Saturday in July. I think that's correct. Once we update that, we will see back on the main screen office in one day we have our pay-per-view. And as you can see, another real big plus point for me is that it is a real world calendar, so it's not as you'd see in TW week 3 of July or whatever. It actually gives you the proper dates. We can then look at the workers on our roster, and again I think this is a really great screen. The game is always being updated, so there'll be changes that I've probably not even come across yet that I'll see. We've got Bateman, who's 1/3 of the 6-man tag team champions, and you see the little icon there as well as seeing it on the screen, and previous accolades show up as well, as do match histories and relationships. So I just think it's so fantastic the way things look in this. The way all the information is presented is a massive plus point to this game. We'll go back to the office, and I did actually see last night that a new match has been added to the pay-per-view, so I'm going to try, if we can, to bring in the guys in that match. It will be Dragon Lee, who I think should be available. I know he has a contract with New Japan, but I don't think that should stop us from bringing him in. There are a few things that are a little bit more basic than in TW from what I've seen. Not that you'd necessarily see that as a bad thing. The gimmicks are kind of limited to a few different ones. We'll say Dragon Lee is going to be an athlete, a 1-year paper appearance deal, and rather than waiting a few days, if the guy accepts the offer, he is on your roster straight away, which is something that I do like. You might say it's less realistic, but sometimes I think it can go the other way on CW, where if you, say, had an injury 24 hours before a pay-per-view and you wanted to contact somebody to come in at the last minute, in real life that is something that we see happen quite a lot, whereas it's not something you could do in TW. So there's different sides to that, of course. Dragon Lee, and I think we'll try and get Roosh, although he may have signed his contract with, oh no, he doesn't have an AEW contract, so we should easily be able to get him. A mid-card, he's a heel really, isn't he? We'll go for Arrogant for him, and we'll make an offer. He's accepted that. So we now have everybody we need for this pay-per-view. The other thing you can do is pre-book shows before you're actually there. For example, our main event that is going to be Jonathan Gresham defending his championship against All Elite Wrestling's Claudio Castanoli. Another really cool thing that you can do, your partner promotions, you don't have to do a talent agreement or an alliance trade or anything like that. You can just go into their rosters and bring in the people that you want. So again, it depends on your preference. I think there's less things in your way, so it's not as challenging. But when you see companies that are as closely associated as ROH and All Elite Wrestling, I think that really works. Turns out I'm putting them as partners rather than against each other, but there we go. It is Jonathan Gresham versus Claudio Castanoli. It automatically adds William Regal at ringside, and then I can make all the changes I want. We want this to be 20 minutes, we want interference, we want to set the winner, all these different things that I'm not going to show you because I will go through the show as I book it. But another little cool thing is that you can put in the segment details, so I could write, for instance, Claudio Castagnoli defeats Jonathan Gresham in 12 seconds with a uppercut. Of course, it's unlikely that's going to be the booking. That's something that I think is going to be really helpful for YouTube series, because instead of having to check my notes and see what's going on, I can literally just look at the text that I've put in there, read it from the screen. We'll save that now, and what I am going to do just before the show, I've put it on the 22nd as the start date. You can set any date, it doesn't have to be the start of the month like in TW, and we're just going to go through one day so I can show you sort of what happens when there actually is an alive game world. So I suppose this maybe isn't a reflection of the game, but more the mod. Quite a few people let go, so it is WWE, so you never know what they're going to do. There's people who they've released who you'd never expect them to release. I'd say AJ, a little bit beyond believability, and well, it looks like a lot of companies have been shedding workers, so that might be to do with their settings and how large the rosters should be. I don't know if, like in TW, certain owners will want larger rosters, but I do notice there that the guy who's supposed to be in our main event has just been released from AEW, so fingers crossed I'll be able to sign him up. Hopefully there will not be a problem with this. He's going to be a main eventer, I think, and he's going to be a babyface. Again, athlete, I think actually Badass is probably more fair for him, and we'll offer him a 1-year deal. WWE has made a counter offer. This is a little bit concerning. Strange that they're releasing people and then trying to bring back Claudio. To stay in the bidding war, these are the new requirements. So, to be honest, I've not even looked at what I'm paying him. What am I paying him? Pay per appearance. I don't know how much he's getting paid, to be honest, but we'll offer it him. WWE's made another counter offer. I'm just going to keep going. Hey, so we've got Claudio Castagnoli there. We're obviously paying him a fair amount of money to agree to that. We've got Sanjay Dutt being offered a contract by OTT, and Sanjay Dutt offered a contract by WXW. I like, again, the inbox I really like. You can search your inbox. We'll see also the news. A hell of a lot of releases going on in the game world on day one. Yeah, I can't speak highly enough of it in terms of the presentation and how all the information is laid out. I am now going to go into booking the event. On screen, I'm going to stop the recording and then come back when the show's ready. But I am going to just go into something that I do find interesting, which is the angle screen, which is slightly different because you'll have story beats. So for example, I'm going to put a segment in now, opening the show, a video package rated on the two guys in the main event, and then just the announcers doing a little bit of talking. So we go into promo, is that? No, that's cutting a promo. So we want a video package, and it's going to be about Claudio Castagnoli, and it's going to be about Jonathan Gresham. It's then going to say production. I want something extravagant for this. We really want to go there. And I want 3 minutes of recapping what's gone down on the show. We'll then add another story beat, which will be talking, because we just want Ian Riccaboni and Caprice Coleman to talk about what's going down on the show. And then again, like you can in TW, although in a much easier way, in TW I have to create an angle, then add the commentary. And as far as I can tell, you can put as much text in there as you want. Yeah, from the looks of it, you can put a hell of a lot of text in there, so it's not limited. I think in TW you can use up to 1,000 characters, whereas as far as I could tell, that was considerably more. With those two beats in there, I'll actually have them talk for 2 minutes, 3 minutes, I don't really care. We'll save that beat and we'll save the angle, and it comes up there, and then you can very easily drag and drop the stuff up or down the card. The interface, everything about this game is really positive for me so far. There are other videos on YouTube, if you just search Pro Wrestling Sim, that will go more into depth of the game. I just wanted to go through and book this show, Death Before Dishonor, with it being tonight, so I'm not going to go too much into it, but hopefully just seeing me play it will give a bit of an insight into this game and maybe influence if you want to give it a go. But with all that said, I will see you on the other side for Death Before Dishonor 2022. So we are now running Death Before Dishonor 2022. Previously I said the fact that you can type things in and put your own text in is a positive, so I will have to point out the negative, that showing everything that's going to happen on the show or the next few segments is probably a negative in that regard. So I'd like perhaps if you could hide that screen have it sort of toggled on and off, so if you want to have it, you want to see what's coming up, you can, but also there's the choice that you don't see it. This was the segment that I booked, and we can see the text there, a video package opening the show, promoting tonight's card, followed by Ian Riccaboni and Caprice Coleman welcoming viewers to the show. And again, I really like how these screens are laid out. It shows you what popularity boosts, or of course if there's any negatives, how it's affected the workers involved. You then get individual ratings for each beat of the angle, so the video package has done really well in 89%. Ian Riccaboni and Caprice Coleman not quite as good, but we still come out with a really good 82% segment. So like newer TEWs, is not a letter grading system, but as we go into the first match now, you will see something that I think is a really nice touch. We go into the match and you get your final score, but you'll also get a star rating. So this opener between Dragon Lee and Roosh, the two brothers, which I think is a really great match that they've added onto this card. I was looking actually at the pay-per-view card, I thought it was just these 7 matches and 1 pre-show match. They've actually added about 4 pre-show matches, but on this pay-per-view we've got 7 main card matches, which I think is the perfect amount. I would say that the 4 pre-show matches maybe is a little bit too much, because then you've got 11 matches on the card, which I do think sometimes can be a little bit of overkill, but I know when I watch the pay-per-view I will skip that pre-show, so it doesn't matter. I've also skipped it when booking this because I couldn't work out if it's possible to set pre-show stuff in the game. It might be just that I've missed it, or it might not be something you can do, but we have there also the text explaining what happened here. Dragon Lee and Roosh wrestle an even match, with Roosh growing frustrated at his inability to defeat his younger brother. Eventually Roosh does pick up the victory, but there is a tainted edge to the win, so despite them being very close as brothers, I've booked it that Roosh does a little bit of cheating to secure the victory, and there is a good reason for that as we go into the post-match segment. Afterwards, we see the verbal sparring between Dragon Lee and Roosh, which is a little bit of tension and a little bit of bickering, because Dragon Lee knows that Roosh has screwed him. However, when things become heated, their mutual friend, and of course Andrade and Roosh, established as a unit on AEW television, he makes his entrance, which gets an 83 rating. The sparring between Lee and Roosh gets a 51%, and then there's talking between the three, where Andrade coming out, stepping between them, and his stern words to the pair, he is very straight to the point to them, and he says that they need to put their differences aside. This seems to work as the 3 men put their fists together in the centre of the ring, and it looks like Dragon Lee is joining Roosh and Andrade in their stable. We then go into the second match of the night, which I thought, after the fast-paced back and forth of Dragon Lee and Roosh, which I think is just the perfect pay-per-view opener, we then get a slower-paced, pure rules match between Wheeler Yuta and Daniel Garcia, and as we say, a battle between 2 of the hottest young prospects in the business. The Blackpool Combat Club's Wheeler Yuta is able to defeat Jericho Appreciation Society's Daniel Garcia by submission. It's a 55 rating and another 3-star match, so I think when you see the percentages you kind of think, well, that's not so great, but when you actually get the match star quality, that does kind of put it in a different perspective, that a 3-star match is a good match. We see some popularity gains across the board for Wheeler Yuta and losses for Daniel Garcia, and we do just get various little notes as well throughout the matches. So a boost for Wheeler Yuta, the ref doing a good job, the announcing great, which I'm a big fan of Ian Riccaboni in particular. That seems like a fair note, but the ongoing rivalry, of course, between Wheeler Yuta and Daniel Garcia, another match that I'm really looking forward to, because whatever Ring of Honor becomes, I feel like these 2 guys can be cornerstones of pushing through a new generation of younger talent. Of course, they're both heavily featured already on AEW, but I think that they can do both, whereby they're sort of lower on the card, they're learning the ropes in AEW, but in Ring of Honor they can be 2 of the guys who you are seeing rising up the ranks. Going into the third match of the night, we get a 2.5-star match between Mercedes Martinez and Serena Deeb. I think possibly we could see a title change in reality, as I can see Serena with that championship, but with Mercedes only having recently won it, I thought it's best to keep the title on her, at least for now, and maybe down the line we'll see another match between these 2 where Serena does get the win, but it's a 54 rating with a 2.5-star match quality. And in this case, both women getting a boost to their popularity. We then go into the television championship match, and this is a 4-star match between 2 guys who are considered main event level talents on our roster. Sonjay Dutt's involvement throughout the match results in him being sent to the back, and when it comes to a one-on-one match, Samoa Joe can defeat Jay Lethal, making him pass out to the Coquina Clutch after blocking an attempted lethal injection. Again, whether Samoa Joe is available long term, I know he's had a lot of time outside of the ring recently, Jay Lethal could walk out of the pay-per-view tonight, and like the rest of the booking so far on this show, this is generally how I expect this match to go. The 6-man tag team match, which doesn't show up quite so well. I'm not sure why it's done that, and it's not a title match when I definitely remember setting that to be a title match. So again, it doesn't matter because this isn't going to be a long-term game, but the Righteous lose their championships because I know Vincent is signed with Impact. Bateman has been doing New Japan Strong, I believe, whereas I think Dalton Castle and the boys will be signed to Ring of Honor, so that's the reason for that decision, and they win these 6-man tag team championships, although I think technically in the game they haven't. Either way, it's just a 2-star match, and after the match we get a segment that, is it a case of when there's more than 4 people on, it kind of screws it up a bit. Either way, Dalton Castle and the boys are celebrating their victory, taking in the reception. I think them becoming 6-man tag team champions, like I think they will tonight, will get a nice reaction from the crowd, but coming out from the back, Andrade, Dragon Lee and Roosh officially aligning those 3 in Ring of Honor here as they brutally beat down the new champions. Dalton and the boys are down and out. La Faction Ignobles stood tall in the ring, and this is kind of a shot in the dark, but something that I wouldn't be massively surprised to see. Lee and Roosh in the opener, and then later on them making it clear that they are in this trios division of Ring of Honor. I kind of thought they'd quietly retired these titles, so it surprised me when a 6-man tag match was added to the pay-per-view, and I think with the abundance of talent on the AW roster, these are 3 guys who could be of great use to the new Ring of Honor, especially with Roosh and Dragon Lee themselves having so much history in the company. We then go into what I think will be the semi-main event. A very disappointing match, to be fair, and I'll look more why into that. I think it's my booking notes not being great, but it is Jonathan Gresham defending the title against Claudio Castagnoli, and despite having claimed his desire to honour the Ring of Honor World Championship, you can see here how much potential there is for typing. You can put a lot of information in this box. Jonathan Gresham's defence of the title descends into chaos as interference mars what should have been an excellent contest between the 2 men. With William Regal on commentary and Tully Blanchard at ringside, Gresham has the advantage of the more hands-on mentor. It's been made pretty clear that Regal's not getting involved in anything physical now he's in AEW. When Claudio looks to have the match won, Tully pulls the referee out of the ring, getting in the face of Paul Turner. While he is distracted, the Gates of Agony come out. Leona isn't in this mod, so we'll just have to pretend he's there. The Gates of Agony come out looking to assist their new Tully Blanchard's Enterprises stablemate. Wheeler Yuta, who's already been in a match, valiantly comes out looking to come to the aid of his Blackpool Combat Club comrade, but he struggles until backup arrives. You'll see on screen there, making his ROH return, something I'd like to see happen tonight. Chris Hero joins Wheeler in fighting off the Gates of Agony. I know Hero did some work with Ring of Honor in 2021 before Tony Khan took over, but I think with Castagnoli in such a big match, we could hopefully see an appearance from him tonight. I think that would be really cool, but there is of course an extra man. While Hero and Yuta can deal with the Gates of Agony, Brian Cage is able to enter the ring. The referee now completely distracted by the chaos at ringside and hits a drill claw, blindsiding Claudio Castagnoli. Jonathan Gresham can then cover his challenger, retaining the title in controversial circumstances and really establishing his heel turn. I do expect that Tony Khan is going to make the decision to put the title on Claudio Castagnoli, but the reason for this for me is that I think you can get more out of this storyline. I think Claudio v Brian Cage at the next Ring of Honor pay-per-view, and then possibly having Gresham v Claudio at Final Battle 2022, where Castagnoli defeats the heel Jonathan Gresham. I think that's a much bigger moat for me. I'd love to see Claudio with the ROH World Championship, but he's only been in AEW for a few weeks. This is his first Ring of Honor match in such a long time, so I do feel it might be hot-shotting the title a little bit, whereas if Gresham can cheat to win, which obviously nobody wants to see, and there's so much interference in this that it does take away from the match, as it says here. While the wrestlers did up their game by trying to steal the show, the crowd was burnt out from such a long chaotic segment, which is fair enough. 20 minutes of chaos a little tiring, so that's just me not really being to grips with the mechanics in the game. I wouldn't have done that if I'd have known how it works, because really it was just supposed to be a chaotic finish to the match. I think if this was the main event you couldn't get away with that, but because we have FTR versus the Briscoes, I think having the unsatisfactory finish you can sort of get away with it. And again, I do think that 2 out of 3 falls match will main event the pay-per-view in reality. Nonetheless, Jonathan Gresham successfully retaining his championship. Tully Blanchard joining Gresham in the ring. Brian Cage also there, sort of giving a sideways glance at the champion. there is a tension between these two. They might be in the same stable, but we're not saying by any means that these two guys are friends, and that sets up that after perhaps if Jonathan Gresham loses the title to Claudio, you can then go into a Brian Cage and Jonathan Gresham storyline. Who knows? But of course, that's not something we're going to have to worry about as we go into FTR versus the Briscoes. It's a 5-star match, so did Meltzer give their first match 5 stars? Quite possibly. It's a 76% rating, so I don't know how that works. I'm assuming the match quality is literally just based off their in-ring ability, and then the final score takes into account overness and stuff perhaps, I'm not sure. But by aiming to steal the show, they upped their game. The major spot, whatever that was, brought the match to another level. FTR successfully retaining the Ring of Honor Championships as they expect they will tonight, and after the match, Dax and Cash offer the Briscoes a handshake again. We saw that at the previous Ring of Honor pay-per-view, which was accepted, but exhausted and exasperated, Mark and Jay look to one another. They consider the gesture, but instead decide to reject it. They walk off. FTR a little bit confused, a little bit miffed, but they're not going to let it ruin their night. They celebrate, standing tall after an incredible 5-star tag team match to end Death Before Dishonor, and overall we get a 67%. So we have gained popularity in every region. Happy with that. And again, there are certain things that obviously I'm not quite to grips with the game yet, so certain booking decisions I wouldn't have done, and I've certainly learned about doing long chaotic matches, for example. But overall, very happy with that, and hopefully that's given people a little bit of a look at what you can expect from Pro Wrestling Sim. In terms of Ring of Honor Death Before Dishonor tonight, I'm really looking forward to this pay-per-view, and I'm hoping that with Ring of Honor, a big fan of AEW, watch pretty much every show, but there is a lot of gimmick matches and there's a lot going on. It's generally a quite chaotic show, which is what makes it so must-see most of the time. But I think with Ring of Honor, you have the opportunity here to take a sort of less is more approach. So the 7-match pay-per-view card for me is perfect, and I just think with the great wrestlers that they're going to be able to draw from AEW and the Ring of Honor exclusive guys, I'm really looking forward to what they do. It'd be interesting to see if anything that I've done aligns with what they actually decide to do. I think quite a lot of the results will be similar, but like I said, I do expect that Castanoli will probably take the championship. We get a summary from Wrestling World News about the show itself, telling us what we earned in ticket sales, 1,000 in attendance for the show. I didn't actually select the venue, so that's probably something, maybe I missed it, or it auto selects it for you. Again, apologies, I'm not hugely knowledgeable about this game just yet, but like I said, there are other videos available that will give you a much better idea. So this was basically just me wanting to share my thoughts about what's coming for Death Before Dishonor tonight on pay-per-view, and I think it'll be interesting that I'd imagine most people will see this after the show itself, so I could be way off, but there's a few things that I really would love to see. I think Roosh, Dragon Lee and Andrade potentially being a trio in Ring of Honor is something that could be very interesting. Maybe a cameo from Chris Hero. So yeah, hopefully some of those things happen. If not, I'm sure it's going to be a fantastic show. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you again in the next video.